good outlet for their product. Once everything starts opening back up, if the buyers are offering them prices that are similar, you know, it's going to be whatever's best for them.
Well, I know the COVID, the 19 pandemic in New York and Italy coming out the first phases.
Home has always been special, so take this time to enjoy home. Focus on what matters most. And when we come through this, when America comes through this, there will still be home. Ashley Homestore. This is home.
Coronavirus in the Ozarks. What's fact versus fiction? KY3 is on your side to get you the truth about the growing pandemic. Join us live this Tuesday as experts answer your questions and concerns. A special KY3 Town Hall event, Tuesday night at 6:30.
You listen when your body says,
I can't see you.
Or I'm hungry. What if your body said something else might be wrong? Gynecologic cancers, cervical, ovarian, and uterine cancers have symptoms, so pay attention.
Hello. I'm glad to see you guys, or at least your names.
If it goes on for 2 weeks, see a doctor.
See, I'm sitting at OTC. Can you tell?
Learn the symptoms. Get the inside knowledge about gynecologic cancers.
I'm in that area I can't go to with all the food. Because it's virtual. Yeah. Kind of fuzzy. Not the best. Pause the TV so you can't hear that. How's everybody? Yes, it is, Jackie. You are so right. We watched Tiger King last week so that we could be, you know, on the cusp of whatever this is that we're all on the cusp of. That guy's just fading in and out of existence. Yeah, I don't know about Tiger King. I think we just watched one episode and then apparently it's like a whole, is it a whole mini-series or something? I don't know. We were just amazed because he lives in Oklahoma, not too far from our son. And yeah, he's nuts. Oh, it is. So it's a whole bunch. One might have been, you know, one might have been enough. I'm not sure, but I think one of them might have been enough for me. I think I've seen him. I know I've seen him around. I felt like it's one of those movies where you feel like you've got a, like 4D, like you can almost smell him. Did you feel that? Because he's so gross. You can smell him. How is everybody? I hope everybody's okay. We've got a bunch of people here. That's awesome. I have a, hang on, I'm going to post a link, another link. Okay, on Discord to our general chat for the 102 section, I just posted a link to an attendance spreadsheet. So I'm not keeping attendance, but I just wanted you to go ahead and log in that you were here just in case OTC was to ask, you know, where we were to have something come up. And then because we're going to do everything really flexible, I'm going to record these Zoom sessions. Now I want you guys to come here at the normal time for class, because that way if you have questions and things like that, we can get them taken care of right away. It'll help everybody. But if you can't make it at our 12:30 time, I'll record our session and post it to YouTube so that you can watch it later. So I'm asking that you go ahead and fill out that sheet later when you do get to watch the video so that I'll know that you got a chance to do that. And again, just trying to make sure everybody gets a chance to get the information as much as possible. Now, the way this semester is going to work from, you know what, everything is changing, of course, all the time. But for right now, the way we should approach it, the way I'm approaching it is your grade is kind of set at midterm. All you could do now is improve it, because there's no way that grades are going to be less than what they were at midterm. So all you can do now is improve your grade, which is great, right? A good situation to be in. And what we're really doing here is trying to make sure you guys know what you need to know. So it's the knowledge that's the important thing. Let's see what we got. Jackie might be going in and out, so we'll have to keep up with her. And I'm sure there are some others of you that have some internet issues. If you have any other issues about technology getting on, let me know, and we'll try to see if we can help you somehow. I'm going to show you this website that's new that they just created. Get this out of the way here. This is, it's, the link is in Discord. Let me paste it here too. How's that? I won't be stingy with it. Okay, so this site then is a new site that some of you may have seen, the old remote OTC site where you could use remote desktop to log in. Well, Neil has changed it quite a bit while we've been off on whatever you call this. And there's a new one now. It's called, to me, it's RD Web. It's a little bit different of a URL. So it's still just a remote desktop. But anyways, the login looks more like this one down here. I can't find it. It's all different. Anyways, this remote desktop will let you run Visual Studio off the web. So if you have a Mac or a Chromebook or something that's not doing all of the things you need it to do, you can use this new RD Web connection. So let me know if you need it. The grade lock thing is OTC's policy. They're being super generous. Their feeling right now is that everybody's grade should not be any lower than it was at midterm. So awesome. I think that I'm going to turn off this video because it's kind of flashy. And we can see what else we need. Okay, so you're going to let me know if you have technology issues, if you want to know how to access this remote desktop facility. We'll make sure that you can get to it properly, or any other problem that you're having. If you're food insecure, you don't have a place to stay, any of those kinds of things, let me know. Not that I can fix it for you, but I can sure try and see what we can do. I saw one camera. I like seeing your webcams. You can tell I don't like having mine on either. Okay, we're going to get started with C#. Have you been practicing? You'll be able to tell that I haven't as we start coding. You'll see me making some typos over and over. We were working with arrays when we left, and that's been a couple of weeks ago, so it's definitely been a while. We'd had a chance to practice one day working with arrays, and you guys are working on this REPL that's due tonight that is arrays. And again, you know, due dates will be flexible, but let me know if you're having trouble with it. It would be good if you could get it done so that you have that behind you and you have that knowledge to move forward, because on Wednesday, we're going to start working with Windows Forms. And when we start working with Windows Forms, everything's going to become much more visual, and we'll get away from all that old console stuff, and it'll make it a little bit easier to work with. And I think that everybody will like it a lot better. I know I do. So we'll see how that goes on Wednesday. But so for today, we've got time to do a little bit more practice with arrays. So let's get Visual Studio started up. Oh, someone didn't have a webcam. Alex said he doesn't have a webcam. somebody have an out of use one they want to send to him. That's what we've got to do, right? I just ordered something for a friend online because I was able to do that and get it sent to her because she was needing it. So that's what we'll do during this time. So Visual Studio, I'm ready. I have not connected to Team Explorer, to TFS, so I'm not going to save my projects to TFS. I would recommend that you save yours to TFS, and if you have any trouble with that, let me know so we can get you fixed. You do not have to use a webcam. It's totally optional. I was just kidding that I would like to see your faces. So it is not a problem if you don't have one. I'm fine with that. Now, some of those teachers, it might not be. I know some of them were looking at all of those Zoom capabilities where you can have Zoom notify you if the student isn't paying attention and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm okay. I know you guys have other things you might look at once in a while. So there might be teachers that require them, but not me. So for now, the only thing that I need from you is Visual Studio. So is everybody able to open it? You get Visual Studio open in some sense. I'm going to create a new project. And for my project, this project, I'm thinking I want to keep track of information about CDs or albums or music compilations, I guess we could call it. I'm going to show you this picture before we start our project and kind of be thinking about it. I might have shown it to you before, but this is like a used record store in New Orleans. You know, my daughter is down there with all those germs and stuff. But anyways, this used record store is pretty neat, and they have used albums, used CDs, you know, all sorts of different things. Music compilations. So I'm glad that old albums are coming back, because everybody knows what I mean when I say album. But I want to talk, have an application that maybe a company like that could use. So they would need something to keep track of inventory. What kind of albums or CDs do they have in stock? And then they might need a system to do their point of sale transactions, you know, the cash register stuff. And those two applications could be integrated, and then the point of sale application could subtract from inventory and things like that. So we could visualize having an application like that. But for us to just get started, let's say the first thing we want to do is create an application that just allows a little bit of information about one of our CDs. So let's call it Audio CD Basic, and then I'm going to put 102 on the end of it for our 102 section. And I'm just going to leave the project and the solution the same name. And like I mentioned, I'm not connected, so I'm going to click OK. So in my project here, I want to create a class. I need to do that at the project level. So at the C# icon, the green one, I'm going to right click and choose Add Class. And our class is going to be called Audio CD. Audio compilation is just too long, isn't it? Now, in our audio CD class, for this very first implementation, all we're going to have is a method. This is going to be a static method, meaning it's only going to be loaded once. So no matter how many cash registers or cash register computers we had connected, they would all be running the same instance of this method. Now ours is not going to be super huge, but it could be. Our method is going to be named calc value, and it's going to accept an integer. It contains the number of tracks that somebody is wanting to calculate, and then a decimal value, which is going to be the cost. Now in our method, we're going to do some questionable math, and we're just going to return a calculated cost number. So we'll just make something up. We'll take the number of tracks divided by 0.1 with an M because it's a decimal, and we want to do some math like that. So that'll give us a return value that we can use. Now let's put some comments in here because, again, it's been a little while. It's been a little while since we've done any code. I'm going to start at the class and press enter, and I'm going to do 3 slashes. Remember, as soon as I do that, Visual Studio inserts those XML comments for me that already have begin and end tags preloaded. So I could put some comments for my code in those. I'm going to say for a summary, this static method will exist only once in memory. And then I want to say it returns something. It returns the decimal calculated value. How's that? Okay, now let's add some additional comments. Whoops, it did it for me automatically. First of all, our header. Let's look at those keywords. Remember, public is specifying our access mode, and because we've made this method public, we'll be able to call it from our program.cs file, our tester. It's static. It's a special keyword, meaning it's loaded only once, right? The word decimal is used to specify the data type of our output. Calc value is the name of our method. Then the opening parenthesis is the beginning of our parameters. Int is the data type of our first parameter. And numTracks is the identifier or name of the first parameter. And then, of course, we have a comma that goes in between parameters. Our second parameter is a decimal data type. And it's named cost. All right, so that gives us all of the information in the header of our method. Of course, we have a closing parenthesis to close our parameter list. Now, how would we call this method? Well, we're going to use a variable that is a decimal data type to retain the return value, and then we're going to say calc value is the method to be called, and we're going to pass in the parameter values that we want used. And that's how we'll call it. So our class is pretty minimal. It's pretty much just a static method. We want to start with the smallest, kind of remind ourselves about these classes. Now, my program.cs is going to be my tester. It's going to test that class. So let's rename it. We'll make it tester.cs. So our tester, let's take a look at our tester. Well, in our tester and in the REPL, you're going to create kind of an application that's very similar to this. And in that application, you're going to create several different methods. One to display instructions, one to prompt the user for an input string, you know, for the name of the album, and all of those kinds of important things. For our purposes here today, we're going to kind of abbreviate that a little bit. And we're just going to create the method to display the output. So I'm going to jump down here and create that method. Because we're going to call it from our main, it's going to be static. It is going to be set up to return a string. So it's not going to actually print everything out. It's going to get it all ready. Now, our output method is going to need the data values to be passed to it for the album or compilation that we're working on. So the data values it's going to need are going to be the ID of our album name, the number of tracks, and the cost. I'm going to go to a new line for that. So those are the data fields that we'll be keeping track of for our CDs or audio CD compilations. Just 4 things, because we don't want to have to do way too much typing. That'll give us some experience with some different data types, passing them around and using them within our class. But for our display output method, let's go ahead and get it built. I want to, first of all, create a string called message, and this is going to be the string that we're going to use to build this information about the CD. So we'll start with an empty string, and then let's add some stuff to it. First of all, I'm going to use that interpolated string that starts with the $sign and lets us put the variable name within curly braces that we want output. So first line, I'm going to output the ID of our CD. So we'll give each CD, each compilation, a unique number, like 50,001. I'd like to go to a new line after each line, so I'll put in a new line character. Now I want to update my message some more. I kind of want my colons to line up. Let's see, after our album, we want our known tracks. I'm going to change this up here. I'm going to make it say audio CD ID, so it's about the same. There we go. Cost. I'm just trying to kind of get everything lined up because we're going to copy this code as we create a more in-depth class so that we don't have to recreate it. There's that. The last thing is going to be our CD's value. Now, our CD's value is going to be something that we're going to calculate by calling our calc value method. So there's a couple of ways we could do that. Let's go ahead and at the beginning of our method, create a variable to hold that. So I'm going to say we want a decimal variable and we're going to call it CD val. And we're going to calculate that by using our audio CD calc value method. We're going to pass it the number of tracks in our compilation and the cost that we've been given. Now, if we do things that way, we can output the CD value as a variable, just like we are all of the other variables in our output method. Only I have to type it right. Okay. How many times can I do it wrong? A lot. Okay, so perfect. That looks really good. We've got our message built. We're ready to return that message to our caller. And that's going to be a nice string interpretation of our CD. Now, I wanted to just show you a different way that we could calculate this and output it. We won't leave them both in our code. It just as an alternative. I could actually call this calculation within the building of our message string, and that would be fine too. So that's an option. I'm going to go ahead and comment that out just so you know it's an option. Myself, I like keeping things simple. So I like the type of code where I have a work variable and then I use that work variable to output the information. Usually as development progresses, we end up needing that work value in another place. But I totally respect this type of code, and a lot of people prefer it this way too, and that's perfectly wonderful. They're both, I think, about the same. So either way, we've got it working. I would like the value to be formatted as currency and the cost. So if you remember, we put that formatter on our variable within the curly braces to specify that we want it formatted as currency. It looks good. So now in our main, let's create some output here. We can call our display output method, and we want to pass in some data to build like a fake music compilation. Now notice down here how IntelliSense is showing us all of the parameters that we need to call our display output method. So it's looking at our display output header here, and it's saying, oh, you need a string and an album. So what kind of album do we want to do here? Need some suggestions. Some suggestions for an album. Who's got an album in their head today? What are you thinking? No, no, no. And all I can think of is like, oh, there's that one. Heart. Okay, let's do heart. We'll say it's Heart's breakout album that's named after them. I am really sad you hear that one guy passed away in California, the guy that wrote Just Walk Away, Renee. I think that's the only song that's ever had my name in it. It's not a very good song anyways, but sad, sad. Okay, so we've got Heart here. They have 12 tracks on this album, and we're going to say they have a cost of 5. Can we run this? Is it going to work? Let's press Control F5. See, oh, well, it didn't crash, right? But we've got no output. And that's because when we display our output, when we call our display output, we were just returning our string. I need to output that. So I'll wrap that in a console.write line. My call to our display output method. And then let's see if we've got getting our output. Press Control F5 again. Ah, there we go. Now I've got some stuff. It was album ID 1, Heart, but my tracks and cost and stuff is kind of squashed. What's going on there? Do you see it? We need some more \n. Because I want to go to a new line after every one of these. And remember, I am not using a console.write line, so I have to use the \n characters to indicate that I want to go to a new line. Let's run that now. And we should see nice, good output. Our cost and our CD value are both formatted as currency. You can tell from our calculation, we have some really expensive music up in here. We want to make some profit off of our stuff. Looks good. Okay, how's everybody doing? Did it work? Have you got it? Is it okay? What do you need to see? Yeah, our audio CD class doesn't have very much in it. So remember, this example is just a static class with a static method. And there is no telling why I might want this in my application. It could be that I have different classes that are going to call this calculation. Maybe I'm going to call it for CDs and for albums and for some other thing that I don't know about. And so by making this standalone in a static class, I can just use that same exact call in all of those different applications and keep everything consistent. All right, everybody else got it? So that was our basic first class from way back when we were looking at classes. And we're going to take things a little further. So in this application that we just created, I'd like to be able to copy some of this code to the one that we're going to create next. And there's, of course, all sorts of ways we could do that, but I want to show you one way. And I'm going to go to my Solution Explorer and right-click to bring up File Explorer. Now this way, I'm looking at my project folder right here in File Explorer, and if there's something that I want to do, I can do that. Get rid of some of these others, huh? All right, so my project folder is here, and that way if I want to find some of this code, I can. So I am done with this project. I'll close it, close that solution. And now I want to create another new project. And you know, sometimes I have you guys create multiple projects in one solution. And this time we're going to create multiple solutions with one project each. All of these are just the flexibility that you have. You can do that however it works best for you. Now this is going to be our audio CD, let's see what I want to call it. Audio CD class 102, because it's going to have our full-fledged class in it. Again, I'm still not connected to TFS. I tried this morning to show how long it takes for me to connect to TFS, and it took so long I finally gave up. So right now I'm just saving things to my local hard drive. Oh no. All right, so for this application, what we're going to have is a full audio CD class. So we know from our last application that we'd like to keep track of an ID number, a unique ID for each compilation. We'd like an album name, the number of tracks, and a cost. So those are some of the data fields that we need to keep. We'll have properties associated with each of those. And we'll have some actions for our audio CD class. First of all, we'll have that calc value method. And second of all, we'll override the system2string method for our CD. So let's create that class. Add a class. And again, this is going to be audio CD. Okay, I want to use a GUI feature of Visual Studio that we haven't had an opportunity to really use before. So find it with me. So in your Solution Explorer, find your audio CD. That's that brand new class file that we just created that's all empty. Now I want you to right click on that and choose View Class Diagram. I know we've looked at that before. Now, when you view your class diagram, our class doesn't have much here, does it? Down at the bottom, we have this screen that is class details. And see how it has methods, properties, and fields and events for our class. Right now, again, it's all empty. That's what we're going to use. So did everybody find it? Are you seeing this class details okay? Everybody. We've got some sort of thingy we can use. You guys went somewhere. I took my participant somewhere. Can you see this yes, no thing? I got one yes, woohoo. Anybody else? Can you find it? For me, it's on my participant screen. I think it's on your Zoom toolbar. But if you're just, oh, there's a no. Who's knowing? What do you say no about? What you doing? How can you? Okay. The question is, yes or no? Do you see this class details screen? Are you ready to use it? Okay. If not, let's find it again. I'm going to close out of this. And on Solution Explorer, find your class and right click and choose View Class Diagram. All right, you see it? Now, when you view the class diagram, you should see this class details down here at the bottom. Chris, do you have a Mac? So it should be okay. Let's see if you can find it in the view menu. On your view menu, look at other windows and see if you have class details. I can't run 2019. I have licensing problems, so I can't go check to see if it's there or not. But if you guys don't have it on 2019, you'll miss out. Let's see. Oh, do you see it? I'm going to give you guys a second to do this. All of you Visual Studio 2019 people, go to the installer from your Windows Start menu. And we want this class designer. Now, Microsoft is trying to get away from giving us all of these diagramming tools. Oh, thank you. Okay, you guys, you watch if you can't install it so that you can see what we can do here, and we'll get the code to you. It'll just take a second and you can type it in as we're doing it too. What I'm going to do using this class detail screen is here where it says add fields, I'm going to add our data fields. So we said we wanted album ID, and I want that to be a string. And then I want the album name, which will just be album. Again, it's a string. Number of tracks is an integer. And our cost is a decimal. Now, way back, we decided that when we create data fields, they'll be private and they'll start with a lowercase letter. Chris, try to do what he said if you add item. See if you can add a class diagram. Let me show you how to do it that way. I'm going to close out of this. I'm going to delete these ones I have. Sorry for deafening you. Okay, so in my project then I can add a new item. And my item can be a class diagram. Is that true? So I don't have that item because I'm not running 2017. Oh yeah, I do, yay. So I'm gonna pick class diagram, add. Now when I do that, my class diagram is gonna be empty. So I need to add something to it. It says, oh, you can drag items from the class view. Like that. Now, my audio CD class is on my class diagram. Then I can use my view. To find class details and see that window. It kept my stuff, so that's all right. No class diagrams for you guys. It's not going to let you do it the easy way. Okay, I'll show you how to do it the easy way really fast. Now that I've got my field set up, I can add the associated properties. Album ID is a string. Album is a string. Tracks. Oops, I need to make that uppercase. Remember, we said our properties are always beginning with an uppercase letter, and other than that, the same as their associated data field. Now, the only other thing I need to do for this class is add the methods. We said we're going to have a calc value method. It's going to return a decimal value. It's public. Can we add static? No. And then the other method we need is toString, and it's going to return a string. And there are some other things that we could add with our class value, but since we have some people that are missing it. Now, in this class diagram, now that our class is more constructed, you see it looks like a UML diagram. We have our private data fields, our public properties, and our class methods. So now that we've done all this within our class details screen, if we look at our audio CD class, we'll see that a lot of the code has been entered for us from using that screen. Now, if you weren't able to, like I said, it's no big deal. We didn't really add a lot of code. So let's do it. We have our 4 class data fields, and then our getters and setters. These getters and setters are kind of interesting. For the album ID field, we want to get the album ID data field. And if somebody updates the album ID, we want to set our album ID field equal to that value that they pass in to update. And do the same thing with all of them, where I've got to be album, my uppercase going to my lowercase. I'm going to set album equal to that value they pass. My lambda expression and not lambda expression. So it's kind of an interesting way of coding this, right, that they did for us. For my number of tracks in the getter, I'll pass the number of tracks. In the setter, I'll set the number of tracks equal to the value that was passed. Finally, for my cost, in my getter, I'll pass cost. In my setter, I'll set cost equal to the value. My cost needs to be a decimal. A typo there, huh? Okay. Now, in our calc value method, we know we already had that code, so let's go find it. I'm going to go to my folder, my project folder, and I'm going to go into the project folder itself. And of course, I see my audio CD CS file and my tester. That calc value method was in my audio CD. So if I double click on that, I'm going to open that audio CD CS file in Visual Studio. And that could get kind of messy because I already have a file of the same name open that's different. and I could just confuse myself. So instead, I'm just going to right click on it, and I'm going to say, I just want to open it with Notepad just for a second, just to look at that line of code. So there's what I need, our method. I'm going to copy that. Actually, I only need this, And I will use that to replace this system generated code. And now my calc value method is implemented and ready to go. Are you getting this class now? All of you poor people with bad internets. My internet has been working. I hope it keeps it up. All right, where's our toString? Well, we have it already, don't we? I'm going to go back to our audio CD project, and we have it in our tester. So let's open our tester with Notepad. And what it is we want our display output method code. So I don't need any of the header information, just the actual method body. So I'm going to copy that and then paste this in my toString. Now that's going to throw some errors because I don't have everything quite set. So first of all, this should be, we want to override the system toString. And we saw when you guys were working with one of those last projects that we have to use the uppercase string to get that override to work properly. Now, some other things, I've got an error here when I'm calling calc value because it's in the same class now. I don't need to specify the class name. Also, because we're working with our class data fields, I don't need to pass them as parameters. Now, I have a problem here with this ID. I think that is a variable name change. So album ID. Clear that up. There we go. Now, we've got our class all created. Let's double check. We need some comments here, but I just am going to go through and look at it. We have our private data fields, all of our public properties. We have our calc value method and our toString to output information. So looking good. What's wrong with your properties? Let's see. Okay. Are all of them erroring out? Yes, go ahead. Go up and let's look at your fields.
Yeah, so I was kind of just following along, and I noticed that the first one seems to be fine, but maybe because no, these are different. First one looks fine, but after that, all these they're just airing out in various different places.
Look at that album up there above where you have it declared. Semicolon is what someone's saying here. Who is that? Logan. Where? Semicolon where? Line 25. I see it. That evil semicolon.
Oh, so is there not supposed to be a semicolon on
Not
these?
there, not up at the top, not at the beginning of it. There you go. So it's like one structure.
You're putting a
Now that
semicolon
last
in
error
there.
is because, yep, it should be a decimal.
Yeah, you're putting a semicolon before your curly braces. That was your problem. You wouldn't
Alrighty.
do that anyways. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I was just following along too slow, and I thought I saw one where I didn't.
That's all right, you got it.
All right.
So then we need the calc value method.
Yes.
This-
I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing so I can see your screen again.
Perfect. Anybody else having trouble? Good job. Okay, so we've got our beautiful class. Let's create a tester. So our program.cs, I'm going to rename the tester.cs. There we are. For some reason, hang on, my one I'm trying to look at is not, can't find it, too many windows open. In your way, there we go, now I got it. So for our tester, the first thing we want to do in our main is create an audio CD. Because we got our class created, we see that as a valid data type as soon as we start typing. With our audio CD, we're going to call it my CD, and it's going to be a new audio CD instance. So let's put some comments there as far as what we're doing. First of all, audio CD is our class name, and my CD is our instance name. So we could have multiple instances for the one class. Now the equal sign is required by C#, and then you've seen the new keyword. Which makes C# create an instance of that data type. Lastly, we repeat the audio CD keyword, which always seems clunky to me, but it's specifying the type of instance that we want to create a new one of, so we could actually have different data types at the beginning and end of that line of code. Lastly, the parentheses are going to contain our parameter list. Right now, we don't have any parameters for building a CD. So let's write some stuff out about that CD. I'm going to use our console.write line. And I'm going to say, I just want to write out my CD. So that says, I want you to find the instance named my CD, and I want you to execute the toString method if there is one. If there is not a toString method, then it would default to the system toString, and we would just see information about the class. Hopefully our override is working, and we'll see our toString information. Let's press Control F5 and try testing. Okay, good. So we see our toString display. Right now, our CD doesn't have any data in it, right? It's a null CD. That's because, hang on. When we created our instance, sorry about that, I'm looking at something else. When we created our instance, we didn't pass any data values in. We had no parameters. We just said create an audio CD with nothing in it. So we could make it have some content. We could say, oh, set the audio ID equal to 1 and set the album equal to art. What did I name that thing? Album ID. There we go. Okay, so now I've set up some of the data fields. Let's try running that. Got some things populated. There we go. We see a little bit of information. So we know our toString is working. Everything looks good. We're getting some data passed in to our class. Everybody good there? Getting some data. Yay. So that's all well and good. But we would like to be able to create instances of our audio CD and not have to populate all of the data fields like this manually each time. So in our audio CD class, we need to add a constructor. So let's add a constructor that's going to allow us to be able to pass in all of the data that we need. I'm going to come down in the class, right past our properties, and I'm going to click, and then using the screwdriver tool, the quick actions, I'm going to choose to generate a constructor. I want my constructor to include all 4 of my data fields, but none of my properties. So I'll uncheck all my properties, click OK. Now we've coded those by hand, and we can use that tool to generate our constructor also. Either way is fine. This would look exactly the same if we had coded it by hand. So remember what we have for a constructor. It's a special kind of method with no return value. It's named exactly the same as our class, and the parameters are things that are going to be passed to our class at instantiation. We're going to use those parameters then to load up the data for our class. So that'll take care of that main constructor. So we have a lot of tools we can use to kind of generate code and make things go a little faster, but we have to kind of know, sort of what we're doing before we use them, or things will get crazy. Now let's test some more. In our tester now, we've already got our output for heart. So let's add another audio CD. This will be my CD2. Make it a new audio CD. But this time, I want to pass in some data. So this is going to be ID 2. We'll make it either. Because it has my name in it. What can I say? Now this album, we'll say, has 10 tracks, and they're only $2 each because it's pretty old. So notice now how we're being able to pass in all of our data to our constructor. Also notice how Visual Studio and the IDE are telling us what data we need. Pretty handy. Yep, I'll show you in just a sec. And the one last problem that we're having is our old call. It was fine before, but now that we added this constructor, C# is not playing with us anymore. Before, C# was like, okay, I'll add a default no arg constructor for you. That means I'll create an instance of your class, but I'm not going to do any arguments, any parameters for you. That's up to you. Well, since we created our own constructor now, C# won't let us use that default no arg constructor. We'll have to create that ourselves too. So let's do it. Let's go back to our class. Now, how to do it the snazzy way is this screwdriver. So Madison, when you click, you want to find the screwdriver over here to the left, do the drop down, and you should have the option to add a constructor, like I should up here, generate constructor. Now for our default no arg constructor, we don't want any parameters, no arguments. So I'll say okay. And then I'll just get a blank audio CD constructor. Let me leave both of those up there for you for a second so you can see them. Do you see anything, Madison? Go ahead and share your screen with us for a second again, because it might be a utility. Let's see. Let's see yours.
All right. So would I need to do something that would cause the screwdriver to appear? Or should
No, I think it's the utility. So go ahead and just click where you would want to add that constructor.
Okay, so it'd be like right below all these.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, that's kind of cool. And then generate constructor.
And
then you wanted to uncheck
your properties.
There we go.
And okay.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. And of course, you guys are better off to code it yourself. I just want you to know that you have these fancy utilities to really speed things up.
Definitely. Thank you.
Get everything done so fast, we won't even know what we're doing. Okay, so now we've got constructors. If we go back to our tester, we should see that we don't have any errors. Now, before I test this, I want to output information about my second CD, my CD2, so that we can see it. So let's press Control F5, and we should see both of our CDs. Notice my heart stuff is still got no cost because I didn't update those properties. Okay, so is it working? Everybody good? Sure. Let's close this. Okay, Dylan. Let's see what you got. Okay, let's look at your audio CD class. And we need that default no arg constructor. So right by your audio CD, right above it. Yeah, go down one on that blank line. And then go ahead and use that tool to generate again. Or you can type it either way. And just deselect all. And that'll pop it in there for you. See if it runs. Woohoo, looks great. Awesome. Okay, just a couple of other things to try. because we were wanting to work with arrays, it's like, why am I doing this to you? Well, I want you to see that you can create an array of these things. So I'm going to create an array of audio CDs. And I can do that just by specifying my audio CD data type and putting the square brackets and saying, okay, I want an array of these things. I'll call it array CD. And then I'll say, I think I'll have about 10 entries in my array. Now, right now, I'm not going to do any looping through the array. I'm just going to manually set position 0 of our array equal to our myCD instance. And I'm going to set position 2 of our array equal to myCD2. Now, if I do that, I should be able to use my console.write line. Instead of saying myCD2, which was my instance name, I can say array CD at index 2, whoops, and that should print out that same information about that class. Let's try it. I should see my heart CD's information come out twice. There we go. So now we've got, oops, it was my just walk away Renee information that came out twice. So we have our CD2 that shows up 2 times. Now again, I could set up a loop to process all of the CDs that were in this list. I could manually control which CD is in each position. Right now, I'm not doing anything with array position 1, so that position would be null. It would have no array CD class member in it. So those are all things that I could test for in my code. So a lot of different things that we could do there. That's what we wanted this thing to do today. So does anybody have any problems or anything with it? Let me find the... Just have too many windows open sometimes. All running. Just the diagram drama. I'm sorry. Everybody else looks good. Yeah, I don't know why Microsoft is hating the diagrams. They're so helpful. They're doing that with the database stuff too. Okay, so we have a lot more we can learn about this. So next time, we'll be doing our first Windows Forms application. It'll be our return to Hello World, because we'll do a Hello World in a GUI environment. And then the following week, we'll create a more intense Windows application that uses our array CD class and builds a list of these CDs that the user can see on the screen. And so we'll get a lot more practice manipulating our array and moving things around. One thing to notice is we have many array methods available. Let me type properly here. If we just name our CD, so we could do all sorts of methods here. We could get the length, you know, find the last thing, find the length of our string, the maximum, the minimum entry in our CD. A lot of different methods we can use because this is an array. But we also have methods available to us through the physical array class. These are static methods that are in the array class. So like if I wanted to sort an array, I could say array.sort and then pass in the name of the array. So a couple of different ways to run the commands, depending on whether they're instance commands, right? Work with the actual array instance, or whether they're static commands that are part of the array class. And we just saw how we could create both of those kinds of things, right? We created our calc value method as a static method, and our toString method is an instance method. It runs for that instance. So we are right here seeing those differences. So that's what we'll do next time. We'll really like it. It's pretty fun. It's great, great stuff. We save all this. Make sure you get everything saved to TFS so that you've got it if you need it. If you need to do curly braces or get some help with the REPL or anything like that tonight, just let me know. Anybody need anything? Any questions? Everybody's good, good, good. Now, that REPL, I know some people hadn't really started, so some people are all the way through with it. Make sure you're helping each other get through that REPL. Some of you might have done it 2 or 3 weeks ago. Take a look at it again because it's just now due. It's been a little while, I know. We've been hanging on that thing for a long time. And then on Wednesday, we'll start with our Windows Form. Now, that Windows Forms app right now says that it's due Wednesday, so don't get worried about that one. We'll take a look at it Wednesday, and you should have plenty of time to get it turned in. So it should not be an issue. And if it is, I'll just change that due date because I just left it as Wednesday thinking that that shouldn't be any problem for us. It is the REPL that has to do with arrays, so it is lesson 11 is the one that we were on. Now I posted to the link to the playlist for our Zoom videos. I don't know if it was out there posted before. So these are out here. It's all the Zoom videos from so far in the semester, and I'll just keep adding the new ones as we do things so you can always find them. So here's the one from this morning for what we're doing now. I try to keep the newest ones at the top, but there are quite a few you might have to look through. So let me know if you can't find anything. Again, I'll be here. Anything you need, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you Wednesday.